Well, I'm here with Jim Pryor, who's the Managing Director of both the Partners and Lambie Nairn. Something we like at WPP, a man with 2 jobs and just 1 salary. And in front of a very impressive trophy cabinet, lots of D&AD awards and many other design awards for the Partners. Jim, thanks very much indeed for joining us. You've gone through a very interesting process. We talked earlier in the webcast about how big the BrandZ data set is and I suppose what a treasure trove potentially it has. You had an interesting idea and delved into the BrandZ treasure trove to see what would come out of the thought. Tell us a little bit about that process.
Well, we had a hunch really to start with, which was that it must be possible to use the data and the changes in data over time to show some causality around what's been driving brand value. And in particular, as a brand consultancy business, we were interested in seeing whether we could show that the type of work we do has an influence on how brand value moves over time. So we went back over 10 years of BrandZ data, looked at the changes in brand value growth for all of those brands within the database, and then cross-correlated that with data from Millward Brown on consumer opinions of those brands, looking at both how consumers perceive the brand in terms of how strong the idea that's at the heart of that brand is, how strong the identity of that brand is in the way that it projects itself over all the touch points, and compared that to consumer perceptions of how strong they felt advertising was with those brands. And the intention of that being to try and establish the relative impact of investment in each of those areas, or strength in each of those areas.
So we've always, I suppose, through the last 10 years for brand valuations, been able to get to the numerical brand value of a brand. But I suppose you're, through this analysis, able to now start to help understand, well, what do you need to do, what levers do you need to pull in order to actually increase that brand value?
Right, exactly. What drives brand value growth, where's the ROI greatest, and not looking to say that one thing works better than another, but really what's the right combination. So I think what this data will actually help marketeers and brand owners to do is to make decisions about where is the right areas to prioritize, what are the sequence of events that one might want to look at in looking to drive growth and drive value into a brand. And what we were able to find there was some really interesting data. So what we found was that brands that have got strong brands working in parallel with strong advertising have grown by a vastly superior extent to those that have just invested solely in strong advertising, or even those that have invested solely in strong branding. But there's quite a remarkable difference that one sees in the value that is created when a full and complete investment is made in branding in parallel with other marketing activities.
So I suppose it's that sort of triangle of really understanding what the brand stands for and where its positioning should be, being able to articulate that well, communicating that, and then using both sort of advertising, traditional advertising, digital, and a whole variety of creative techniques in order to multiply that effect.
Right, and it's a great advert actually for horizontality, which is another great WPP principle. So for example, we showed that brands that are investing in great advertising, or at least perceived to be creating great advertising, but are not perceived to be to have strong brands, have grown in value over 10 years by 27%, compared to brands that are perceived to have strong advertising but also perceived to have strong brands, have grown in value by a massive 168% over that same 10-year period. So the difference is quite incredible. And actually, when you look at the fact that the cost of building a strong brand, investing in the processes that lead to a strong brand, are really only a fraction of the cost of media that one would need to invest in order to drive great advertising. There's a very strong argument, I think, there for why a brand should look at a balanced portfolio of activities with strong investment in driving a clear and distinctive brand idea, strong investment in a cohesive and a coherent brand identity, and then when that works in parallel with great advertising across all of the different touch points in media, so as you mentioned, digital, conventional, etc., the value that's created is multiplied to a much greater extent when that package is complete in that way.
Well, Jim, a fascinating piece of analysis, and you can read more about it in the report, the BrandZ Top 100 Most Valuable Global Brands for 2015, and later on we'll be giving you information about how you can download your own copy. Well, for the moment, Jim, thank you very much indeed for joining us. Jim Pryor from the partners, also from Lambie Nairn, and a number of other WPP companies as well. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.